Hello, my fellow human. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks so much for joining us. We're all here sharing this human experience together. I do things differently here on this channel. So that being said, there might be triggering statements that do arise on the readings themselves. There's no obligation to force it to fit, while keeping in mind that triggers are a beautiful blueprint for us to deepen our healing journey. If the message happens to resonate with you, it would mean the world to me if you were to like, comment, and subscribe below. Your time, your energy, and your presence today are a true gift and a blessing, and I'm deeply honored to be here sharing it with you. So we are going to be looking into what does your family secretly think about you. I just feel like with the series of readings that we've been going through, this is actually a highly requested reading, believe it or not. And it's been a while since I've done one. And so that's why we're doing this one today. And I really felt called to using the Soul's Journey lesson cards by James Van Praagh. And let's go ahead and open with our prayer and we'll get this reading underway. You know, and while I'm getting this lit, I just want to always mention that when we're looking into what other people secretly think of us, that these are more for entertainment and maybe also confirming what our intuition is telling us. It's not to gain fuel to attack anyone else, right? Like when we're coming from a place of wanting to attack others, or we're trying to use it as a means to justify lashing back out, we're still coming from a place of fear, and these can help us deeply heal in a place of acceptance so that we can make a decision that best aligns with our highest good. And that's truly what we want to do as we move forward on our journey, okay? My beloved source, this prayer is for any and all who come onto this reading, whether it's for the entire time or for a moment's time. Today I ask that you open our hearts to remind us that while we might share blood or share labels with the individuals in our lives, that even if they're not holding up to the expectations that we have of said position, or if they're not capable or able to give us the love that we need in order to have a positive, thriving connection, that it's not up to us to carry this. It's not up to us to be the only one that makes changes in order for this relationship to come together. That to have any working connection, it truly is a two-way road. And that not one person can put in 100% while another person puts in zero effort. And if that may be the case, and even if it's a lopsided case and it's like 30-70 or 60-40, whatever the situation may be, I ask that you help us to come from a place of calm, collected, clear action to decide what is best for ourselves moving forward. What is it that is going to be in our highest good and in our highest alignment when it comes to those who have family labels within our lives, and what those dynamics mean for us in this time. Are we learning something from them? Are we gaining strength and backbone because of how difficult the situation is? Are we choosing resilience over victimization? And are we truly leaning into our strength and choosing our happiness and bliss over endless hope of someone else changing when it's not our position nor something within our control to do so? So today I ask that you ease any pains and sorrows that any of us may have, and help us come from a place of true unconditional love, which is not being a doormat, but standing up gracefully, elegantly, eloquently, and stepping forward with true courage. As these words are spoken onto this tribe and onto this reading today, so shall they be. Amen. Aho, ase. Thank you, thank you, thank you, my beloved source. Thank you. All right, let me get that set up over here. Okay. We'll move this out of the way. And we're going to shuffle. What does your family secretly think about you? Source, what would you like to share with us today? What Soul's Journey Oracle cards are going to help us better understand this message? What does your family secretly think about you? What Soul's Journey Oracle card is going to help us better understand this message today, Source? Okay, thank you. What does your family secretly think about you? All right, pile 1. What does your family secretly think about you? Source, what Soul's Journey Oracle card is going to help us better understand this message? Thank you. Okay, pile number 2. What does your family secretly think about you? Source, what Soul's Journey Oracle card is going to help us better understand this message today? Thank you. And pile number 3. What does your family secretly think about you? What Soul's Journey Oracle card is going to help us better understand this message? Thank you, Source. Okay, collective energy, bottom of the deck, growth. What a positive card to come out for this reading, especially if you've been dealing with a lot of difficult situations in regards to your family dynamic. Right now, your family cannot deny that you have become someone entirely different than what they knew before, that you are no longer fitting into those old paradigms and those old beliefs that once the mobile of family had held, right? Basically, you've removed yourself from those dynamics, and other family members have had to assimilate in order to maintain balance within that dynamic. And that sometimes is a very positive thing, but oftentimes it's others replenishing those old negative or toxic beliefs in order to avoid change, in order to avoid their own growth, right? But for you, you've gone into a space of recognizing that it's okay for you to step away. It's okay for you to become your own person. It's okay for you to choose your growth over labels in this physical world. Because sometimes labels, they're our human way of putting understanding on all things around us. Labels are how the language came to be, the language that we speak, whatever that is. It literally is a label for everything that we're able to communicate physically, to show, like, this is an oracle card, right? That's a label. And it could have been called anything, but it became an oracle card. And so when we look at that, it actually is a limiting label when we say, oh, this is my brother, or this is my sister, or even family. And it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. What I'm saying is that when we say we love someone, we're opening up to what love can be. And love itself is still a label. But there's something deeper to love, is the feeling. Just like there's something deeper to fear, is the feeling. And your feeling of love, especially for self-love, has grown to an unquestionable amount. And because of that, they're also seeing that you're no longer putting up with them talking to you in a certain way, or them treating you a certain way, or you've gone beyond, even if you grew up in a very loving family, like, you've gone beyond that little box that you all have lived in, and you have helped them to even expand their own consciousness. And I feel like for many people here, there's been a dynamic where there's a lot of resistance to your growth, but there was no stopping your ability to grow. There was no stopping how far you've gone, and there is no stopping you in regards to taking this journey for yourself. And because of that, your entire family has been affected, whether in a positive or a negative way, was completely and entirely up to them and how they chose to see your own growth. So there are some that are negatively affected by that growth, but there are others still that are positively affected by that growth. And generally you'll know who it is that you've affected positively, or you'll know who you've affected negatively because of the way they're treating you. But ultimately, they recognize that you've come into a much more emotionally stable place, and you are no longer controlled by your emotions. You are controlled by a cool, calm, peaceful intelligence that is helping direct the journey to a much more profound and the word that's coming through is overwhelming experience. So this is them looking at you. It's overwhelming because you're showing them things that they never imagined were possible. And in some ways, they really believed that one day they were going to have the right to tell you, I told you so. In other words, that you were never going to make it, or that you were always going to struggle, or that you were just on a pipe dream. And you're making it become reality. And they're the ones who literally are with their jaws slack and open. I can't believe you did that. And because you did it from ground zero and you built something substantial, now they're starting to ask themselves, like, what could I have done differently in my own life? Or what can I do differently in my own life if I just believe in myself? So let's read this from the book and see what more comes out in regards to growth. It says, I want to expand my consciousness and my awareness. You are constantly being presented with situations that enable you to develop your inner wisdom and assist you in advancing to higher levels of understanding. The lesson is to be aware of these events and recognize them for what they are. To live a mindful life is not only about respecting and honoring those around you, it is about recognizing every person and circumstance on your path as a teacher. The constant chatter and diversions of life on earth can distract you from signposts that Spirit has left on your path. Take the time to be aware of the beautiful wisdom that this has been laid before you. Acknowledge these gifts and take them to heart as you continue your sojourn in this physical dimension. Don't look for the opportunities that you think you need. Instead, be receptive to the opportunities that are given. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you've been an opportunity for their growth. And again, it comes to how they choose to look at it. Is that a hindrance for them, or is that an opportunity for them to choose to believe in themselves? And for some, it's easy to look at it that way, but for others, it is not. All right, so let me get this set up. Got something different to choose from today. I still have yet to unpack all of my things. I've been here for a couple of weeks, but this has been a slow move for me, and we're getting there. We're getting there. Every time I leave, I have to pack everything up and then unpack it when I get to where I'm going. And so you'd think that I'd have a system by now, but every time it's just kind of like chaotic, and we're getting there. All right, so for pile number 1, we do have this dice with, if we can get this to focus here, it's a little dark because it's cloudy out right now. This dice with Mercury on it. Or we have this bracelet that I got from the aquarium in Texas, in Corpus Christi to be exact. This is, I want to say it's jade, but I'm not 100% sure what the gemstone is on it because it didn't say. They don't tell you what the gemstones are. These are those little tracker bracelets though. So like, I got to track a dolphin for a year and his name was Samuel. I got to watch his migration patterns for a whole year. It was awesome. Okay, for pile 2, we have this dice with Pluto on it for you to choose from. Or we have this chakra bracelet. Okay, and pile 3, we have this dice with the South Node for you to choose from. Or we have this selenite bracelet, which I got at the Fantastic Caverns in Missouri. I'm not sure the city. I just know that it's pretty close to Springfield. So pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3, whichever pile you felt drawn to, that should be the one for you. And I will see you over there. Hello, my fellow human. If you were drawn to this dice with Mercury on it, or perhaps you were drawn to this dolphin bracelet that I received or I got at the Corpus Christi Aquarium in Texas. And like I said in the intro, I'm not sure what the gemstone is. It might be jade, but it might be something else. They don't really tell you what the gemstones are. Or perhaps you felt called to this card during the shuffle. This is going to be a reading on what does your family secretly think of you. So for anybody that is a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. We're all here sharing this human experience together. I do things differently here on this channel, so there might be triggering statements that do arise on the readings themselves. There is no obligation to force it to fit, while keeping in mind that triggers can be a beautiful blueprint for us to deepen our healing journey. If the reading does happen to resonate, it would mean the world to me if you were to like, comment, and subscribe below. Your time, your energy, and your presence are a true gift and a blessing, and I'm deeply honored to be here sharing it with you today. So let's go ahead and hop to it and find out more about what does your family secretly think about you, pile 1. What does your family secretly think about you? What would you like to share with us today, Source? What does your family secretly think about you, pile 1? You know, it's interesting. I keep getting drawn to the bracelet, and there's a little dolphin. That's what the little animal is that's on there, is a dolphin. And I mentioned it in the intro where I got to track a dolphin named Samuel for a year, because they're tracker bracelets. They come with a number that you enter in, and then you get to see the migration patterns of whatever animal it is. And they have it for turtles, and they have it for sharks, and they have it for all that. But the dolphin in particular, I keep looking at, and anytime I think about a dolphin, I'm always drawn to this energy of just happiness. Like, you're someone who is able to put on a smile even when things get really tough. And that's what your family secretly thinks about you. Like, I feel like a lot of your family members look to you for strength. Regardless of what they think of you or anything like that, there's something about how they're looking to you for strength to maybe lighten the mood when things get very difficult, or to help them smile again after a period of grief or after a period of suffering. And even if they don't talk to you, like, they might follow you online on one of your social media accounts, and that you, whatever it is that you post, it's just full of love and it's full of light, and that they're always looking to you to make them feel better. And I feel like for you, pile 1, at some point on your journey, like, this could have been something that they've done all their lives, is look to you to lighten the mood. You know, that could be that you share a lot of humor, or you have a lot of funny things that you do, or you're just very expressive, or you're very silly, or you're just very smiley, happy-go-lucky kind of person. I feel like at some point during your own journey, your own life, that this became a huge burden to you in the family dynamic, because what happened when you needed to be cheered up, you know, it was like when you were experiencing really challenging or difficult emotions, it feels like there wasn't a whole lot, or if anybody, there for you and your family that would help you smile again. And so it's like you always had to not only rely on yourself, but then to carry this burden of always being a positive influence for everyone around you. And there's just a sheer exhaustion that's coming in with that right now. Okay, so let's find out some more with what the dice are saying. We've got the 3rd house. Yeah. So we've got Leo energy, and We've got your, yeah, so your family does secretly think that you are someone that's always at the center of attention. And whether that's within the family or just out and about, but that you are someone that people are naturally drawn to. And, we'll look a little bit more with the tarot if that's something that they positively think towards or negatively think towards. But I do feel like they look at you as someone that is, they look up to you. With the Leo energy here, they look up to you. Then you have the third house here with it's like your reasoning and your logic and how you rationalize life around you and what you learned as early childhood dynamic. That's what I was saying. It's like this energy where ever since you were little, you've been a leader in your family, but maybe that was not always a positive situation. It was always this expectation that you were meant to carry people on your shoulders. And it was always like, I'm the young one, right? Like maybe you're the baby of 5 kids, or you're the youngest in the family, or you could even be the oldest, right? And the expectation of helping take care of, maybe you have a really large family and a lot of siblings and you had to take care of the younger siblings. And even if not, you could be an only child. It's just, there's this dynamic here where even the parents and the adults were looking to you to help them from drowning in their emotional overwhelm. And so what they secretly think of you is that they're always going to look up to you, or they're always looking to you to save them from those challenges. But you're changing, and in changing, they're losing their grip on their life raft that they have. And so there's also this thought process that's coming through where they're secretly thinking that you're being selfish because you're walking away from a dynamic that, with all due respect, pile 1, I hope you recognize is not your burden to carry, if that's the case here, right? So you've done enough of that. You carried enough family members, especially from a young age. This is something you learned to do when you were little. You became the life raft of your family. And that's what they secretly think. It's like, oh, without pile 1, what am I going to do? Who am I going to lean on? Without realizing that you have asked yourself that very same question time and time again when you needed somebody to lean on. But that there's also this thought process of, oh, pile 1 always bounces back. They always go back to being their outgoing, happy-go-lucky self. Like nothing gets pile 1 down. And honestly, I feel like for you, pile 1, you've learned to mask your hardships and sorrows with a smile. So nobody would know if you were truly suffering, because from an early age you realized that, or you felt that, right? And either way, that's the reality that you experienced, is that you felt that how you were experiencing life and how you felt about that experience were getting cast aside, especially in comparison to how everyone else around you felt. And thus your emotions were always cast out and deemed as little worth compared to mom, compared to dad, compared to grandparents, auntie and uncle, cousins, siblings, caretakers, so on and so forth. And you learn to mask those hardships with a gigantic smile and a really bubbly or outgoing, charismatic personality. And so your family does secretly think that you were given the gift of charisma, but I honestly feel like there's this energy coming in where your charisma is actually a deflection. It has become a coping mechanism for you to not face at times the reality of how you feel about anyone's situation. It's much easier for you to rely on your humor or on your outgoing sense of self rather than to face that eternal doom that's ever present sometimes, and the deep depression that maybe you have experienced in your life. It's really telling. What does your family secretly think of you, pile 1? Thank you, source. What does your family secretly think of you? They do feel like you're very lucky in life, like you've been given a lot of abundance, or that you are the outcast in the family because you're so different from everyone else. part of that is because you are empathic, very empathic, and I feel like your family has little empathy for people other than themselves and their own experiences. And that kind of selfishness that surrounds people, especially when there's an empath involved, it's hard for them to put the shoe on the other foot. Like, they don't think that anybody could ever experience as hard as things as they've gone through, or as hard as circumstances as they've gone through. And for you, you've learned to overcome a great deal of negativity by yourself. And with that, your family secretly thinks that negativity, hardships, grief, any of the potentially drowning emotions that exist just don't affect you at all. I feel like life could fall apart around pile one and pile one would be completely unfazed. And that's not true at all. You have learned how not to share that. And I feel like maybe that's a part of your journey right now, is being more vulnerable with people you trust. Not necessarily family, but people who are on your side, people who are have shown that they want to be a part of your life, or even in talking to maybe a therapist or a psychiatrist or something along those lines, like talking to someone, being vulnerable and open has been a huge trauma for you. Because what happens if I tell this person who says they're on my side what I'm really truly feeling and they cast me away? Feels like that could naturally be the end, right? That could be the end of me, because I actually wanted to take that step into vulnerability. And so for your family, though, they don't see that side of you. They see that no negativity will ever affect you, that the world could literally be falling apart, that spirituality or religion could literally be falling apart. What you grew up believing could be falling apart, could be crumbling down at the seams, and you would still be this wildly happy person, unaffected, like a hippie, basically, a flower child energy here. Does your family secretly think of you? Yeah, and that's another interesting energy here, right? With the Knight of Swords in the reverse, is that they feel like you're conceited and selfish because of that. Like, you don't let anything bother you. It's almost like they feel like you're pleasantly ignorant, or that you're blissfully ignorant, that you are not paying attention to that. Like, maybe you don't watch the news, or you don't keep up with all the negative things that are happening in the world. And honestly, we can't, right? We can't just constantly consume negative things, because it really does affect us mentally, emotionally, and it can even affect our health in some really detrimental ways, which right now I'm reading The Myth of Normal by Matt. I don't know how you say his name. Anyways, it's Mate with a little accent over it. And it is such a fascinating book. I was surprised because there's not a lot of jargon in it. It's actually very easy to read, which is always helpful in any case, especially when we're talking about psychology or anything about, our mental health and our mental well-being. Anything that's easy to consume makes us able to put it into practice. But, he talks about that too. It's like our traumas that we've experienced and how much those stressors that we've been through in life, and constantly watching negative news is a stressor. Like, it's putting us in a state of stress. Or like constantly watching TV shows where people are getting murdered and they're showing, blood, and they're showing like all these graphic details, right? Or constantly seeing, just constantly consuming everything that's negative and nothing that is positive or encouraging. I like to watch Hallmark movies because they're encouraging and they're enlightening, and they, make you cry, but they make you cry in a healthy way, in a good way. Like, it's a good thing, and stuff like that is really good for our soul. It's good for our hearts. And I feel like that's the thing. Like, they see you as not keeping up with the day-to-day news, and they see you as not keeping up with the things that are happening in the world. And I feel like you're aware of what's going on, but we can't just constantly focus on that, because it will bring us down. Rather, sometimes we just need to step back and refocus on ourselves, and that's where true solutions do arise. But they do think that you're conceited, that you're very much stuck and selfish in your own way, and that you're trying to seek out that attention. Like, you want to be the center of attention. You want to be the class clown, or you want to be seen as somebody that is super positive and unaffected by anything. But equally so, they think that nothing does affect you. And it's almost like they see you as somebody that is, like, the energy that's coming through is they see you as someone that's dumb, and you're not. But sometimes it's just better to play dumb, right? It's better to, because it's better to let people underestimate you, and you can prove them wrong later, right? Yeah. They also secretly think that you're given a lot of brilliant opportunities that they've never received themselves. And you always go towards those opportunities, and somehow that you're very lucky when it comes to those opportunities. That you're always going to make the most of something small. And I do feel like there's jealousy here within your family in regards to that. And it might not be just jealousy here. There might be real irritation when it comes to that, or real anger, because they feel like they deserve your spot on the journey, and they're not realizing how much work you've gone through and how much you've overcome. Yeah, you're never hopeless. You're always moving forward. That's the thing, like, they feel like they'll never have those opportunities because they feel the burdens of real life. They feel the burdens of worry. So an example here would be like bills and money, right? Like, they feel like you get to live your life free from bills and money because money comes so easily to you, or you don't have to worry about taking care of certain things like they do. You know, maybe you don't have kids and your siblings have kids, and they're like, oh, it's easy for pile one because they don't have kids, but you still have to live in this world too, and you still have stressors. But the difference is that you have faith that everything's going to work out, right? Which is what the star in the upright would indicate, is that you're full of faith. But we have the star in the reverse here showing that where they're coming from is a lack of faith, a lack of hope, a lack of self-trust, and a lack of trust in the divine. And because of that, they're not given the same opportunities. But the truth is that they're given the exact same opportunities that you're given. But when you have someone who's showing up with a pessimistic view, they're not going to see those opportunities, because they're not going to, like, my mom always used to say, when God closes a door, he opens a window. But so many people are waiting for another door to open because that's the only way they know how to enter a house. But sometimes we have to be willing to get creative and go out a window. And I love that my mom always said that, because it made me realize that opportunities are not what we ever expect them to be. So keeping an open mind is something that's very powerful here. And that's exactly the type of energy that you have. You have this open mind where it's like, I'm not expecting the opportunity to come in the box that I think it should come in. I'm just know that the opportunity is going to present itself when it presents itself. And I'm going to know it's an opportunity, and I'm going to move towards it. And that's exactly what you're doing. And so your family doesn't see it that way, though. They're like, oh, well, this door closed for me. Now we're waiting for the back door to open. But there is no back door. So they're going to be waiting for a long, long time, right? And that's it. And they're stubborn, and they're happy being in that stubborn energy. And they're happy being in that place of blaming you as the one who got all the family's luck. Because it's like, oh, well, pile one is the one that gets all the good stuff. Pile one's the one that got it easy. But none of them have asked you about yourself or how you actually feel about life, because... And even if they did, I just don't think that you would tell them, pile one, because they've made it very clear that they don't care. Yeah. House 4, cultural and family roots, home, peace, and comfort. So you've had to learn how to create a new home for yourself. Like, even if you're around your family, like, some of you may live with your family or help take care of some of your family members or help take care of the kids, you know, like, that's a very real thing. And we can't always just bunk out when we want to, right? Like, I know that that's like, everybody's like, just leave them, just block them, but that's not always an opportunity, a viable opportunity for everyone. Like, sometimes we have to stay in a certain environment as a stepping stone to get to a better environment for ourselves. And so that's not something I'll ever say, like, you should just leave. You should know, like, that's not, because I understand that sometimes we have to maintain or endure something in order for us to prepare for the next step of our journey. That's just a part of this life. And so I do feel like some of you are in that situation, or that you had been in that situation where you're preparing for something better in your life. And that's why a lot of your family's like, oh, like they were given this great opportunity. So say it was like buying your own house. Like you had to live with family until you could buy your own house. And then when you bought your house, it was a beautiful home. It was everything you ever asked for. It was everything that you could have imagined. And it was even in the price range that you wanted. And you got even more than you could have ever thought. And they're jealous because it's like, oh, well, why? Of course pile one's going to get that because they have all the luck. Like that's what they're secretly thinking about you, is that you have all the luck. But they're not looking at the fact that they played a role in diminishing your worth and diminishing your ability to be vulnerable with others, because they never actually got to know you. I feel like your family just doesn't know who you are. They know your name. They know maybe a few foods that you like. They know that you wake up every morning at 6 o'clock and you drink a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. They know that you go to bed at this time every night. They know that maybe you like enjoying watching these shows. They know that you post these things online, right? As I was saying, it's like they come to you because they look to you like a light. So it's like they see you posting positive things online, but they just really believe that you're living in dreamland, in la la land, not with your feet on the ground, but believing that a pipe dream is going to get you to where you want to go. But then when you're actually living that pipe dream that they thought, right? When you're a living embodiment of that dream, they're grumbling and moaning about it. Like, of course, pile one's going to get it. But you can't have it both ways. You can't be blaming pile one for being conceited when they've done nothing but lift you up, right? I mean, you can, but at the same time, you can't complain about it and believe that you're actually right about it, right? You can't sit here and be like, oh, pile one lives a pipe dream, but then when they get their dream, be like, oh, of course they're going to get it. Like this is like a flip-flop type of energy. They don't want to take accountability for how they showed up in your life. They just want to make sure that you're the one carrying the blame, while also being the one that they go to lean on because they don't know how to carry themselves through their own drama. Emptied. The ending and the beginning lie at either side of the same door. Isn't that funny? We were talking about when God closes a door, he'll open a window. I can't tell you how many times I heard that line from my mom growing up. She was always saying that. Like when things got hard, that's exactly what she would say. And I love my mom. I miss her so much. But, it was always interesting because she would say these things, but she had a hard time believing them herself. And I feel like this could also be something that your family does. They say these really beneficial statements to you, but they themselves don't believe them. They're like not the embodiment of them, and you're becoming the embodiment of them, and they're always confused by that. Like, oh my gosh, how are you doing it? It's because you're learning how to feel, right? With the sacral chakra here being lit up, you're learning how to feel and let yourself feel. But that's been something that's been hard. Like you see this lamp doesn't actually have a light in it. It's because the light is here at the sacral chakra. Right? But before, it was the light that everybody was following because you never let yourself feel. It was like very distant from yourself, very separate from yourself. You had to separate yourself from your emotions. But now as you reconnect with your emotions, it's giving you strength to stand up, and your family's secretly thinking that you're even more of an outcast, and also that you're given everything without even trying, as she's laying here. But that's not the case at all. You're given all of these things because you have worked hard for them. You've overcome fears. You've demolished obstacles and barriers along the way. Okay? Yeah. Believe in yourself. This is a message from Source. This is what Source is reminding you, to always believe in yourself. But if you see here, she's very vulnerable, right? Like she doesn't, all she has is this necklace covering her. And that's a very vulnerable position for a woman to be in, and just being exposed, right? There's exposure here. And it's interesting because I feel like that's what Source is saying, like to feel your emotions feels like it's to expose yourself, and to expose yourself in a very uncomfortable way. But the more that you believe in yourself, the easier it is for you to be vulnerable with people around you. Whether they believe in you or not, that's not the case here. It's you being honest and truthful to yourself and speaking up when you you know you need to speak up. And so I feel like that's the other thing, is that your family is secretly thinking that you've grown a pair of cojones here, and that through that you become someone that is unreachable, and that you've become someone that they themselves can't talk to anymore. And what's really happened is that you've created a boundary where they can no longer take advantage of you the way that they once did. And because they're not benefiting from that, of course they're getting angry. People often do when they can't have the same access to you that they once had, right? That's just the way that it is. So your family does secretly think that you're very passionate about something here. And I feel like that has to do with positivity, with love, with light, with the journey that you're walking on. You're doing something you're very passionate about, something that's a new opportunity, or an opportunity that you've not shied away from. They do secretly think that you're very passionate about it. And I actually feel like most of your family, even if they do hold negative thoughts towards you, or if they are jealous of you, like they're actually really admiring the fact that you haven't given up on what it is that you've put your time and your energy and your effort into, because you might have had a track record at some point of not staying true to the journey, right? Like maybe you picked up playing an instrument and you only stuck with it for a couple of months, or maybe you picked up writing poetry and you only stuck with it for a couple of months. Like, but whatever this is, it's like you've gone beyond the quitting time, if you will, and you've created momentum in what it is that you're doing, and they are admiring your passion, and they do secretly think that you are very passionate about what you have. But there's this hunger where I do feel like they secretly think that you owe them something, and they want you to fill that void that has arisen within them, but it's not yours to fill. And because you recognize that you are coming from a place of structure and stability, and no longer being bullied into playing a part. Let's get one more of these. That one. Thank you. On the bottom, purity, innocence, holiness, humility, and virtue. Yeah, and this is Source reminding you you've purified your energy. Like you're no longer holding on to those burdens that were not yours to hold on to. We have painting coming out here with telling a story, conveying emotion, decorating, and shaping. So you are learning how to convey that emotion that felt so impossible for you to speak about. You're no longer holding that back. And dream, your family secretly thinks that you're following your dreams, but they do really believe that they're a pipe dream, like that it's something that's unattainable. And that's the other thing. I do feel like there's family here. It's like, it doesn't even matter if you attain your dreams. Like they're still always going to have something negative to say about it, because that's just the type of energy that they're coming from. They cannot see anything positive. They're not ever going to come up to you, pile on, and be like, hey, good luck and good job for what you've done. Like that's just not the type of energy that they hold. We have desire, omen, nightmare, and fantasy. They feel like you're living in a fantasy, but somehow things work out for you and they don't get it. Taurus. That's what I was saying, because you trust in the process. You have a lot of faith in the process itself. Trust, patience, and sensuality. Like you're not trying to rush things here. You're allowing the foundation to become whatever it's meant to become. And you're trusting that it's going to get you there every time, right? It's like I was saying earlier, where maybe you don't have kids. And again, this is just the example they're showing here. It's like you have siblings that have children, and they're thinking, of course it's easy for pile one because they don't have kids. That's not necessarily true, right? There's a lot of instances where people are not getting paid enough just for basic living. And so that's why we see a lot of families that are starting to move back in with each other nowadays, is because we're realizing like we just don't have a minimum wage, at least in America. Like there's just not a minimum wage that's really sustainable for one person to live on. And it does get more challenging as you add additional people to the family. But, you know, I do feel like there are some instances where kids give us a break on the journey. Not all the time, but there are some instances where you do get a break because you have kids, where maybe a single person would not. And they're not realizing that, or they're not looking at it that way. They're just looking at what their own lack is, and they're projecting it out that you have so much abundance that they don't. But it's because you built a foundation, and that foundation has come from the past of what you've experienced in the past, and realizing what you want for the future. right? Yeah, weeping wound. You are not your wounds. Your family does not realize how much they've wounded you. And they secretly think that you're playing this part. Like, you are telling a sob story, right? Telling this story. You're telling a sob story to everyone that's not real, or that it didn't really happen. But that's not true at all. It's like they never stopped to ask how you felt. And again, coming back to this wound here on her chest, it's like, you know, what happened here? This is at the heart chakra. It's like putting your heart on hold. Putting what was in your heart on hold so that you could help lift up everyone else. Crying tears of blood here, right? Like putting yourself through the fire and the flames so that you could help everyone else when no one was there to help you. And you've had to heal from this, and you've had to heal greatly from what your family has put you through. And so they're not seeing that, but they do secretly think that you're embellishing the story, when I don't feel like that's true. In fact, I feel like in some cases you dumb down the story because there's a fear of actually telling people what you went through or sharing with others exactly what you went through. And that's because you're trying to still save face with certain people, even if they're not there. It's almost like if you're journaling, you could be alone, no one around you, and you're trying to journal about the past and what you went through just to get it off your chest. I feel like at times, Pile 1, you're the person who's still looking over your shoulder, expecting someone to be reading what it is that you're writing, and that's going to make them feel bad. Like, that's the type of energy I get from you. And so to share your real story is a challenge, but, you know, your family secretly thinks that you're embellishing the story. And I feel, as a reader, I feel like you're actually cutting out a lot of what has happened to you. You're not sharing the whole story. And that's just because there's still a lot of fear that's attached to being open and vulnerable like that. And that's going to be a process that you go through, right? So don't try to rush yourself. Give yourself the space and time to grieve what it is that you experienced, and realizing that it's okay for you to be honest with yourself bit by bit if that's what it takes. Yeah, wow. With Lilith here, we have face your shadow. And this goes hand in hand with what I was just talking about. This is a part of your shadow. And there, you know, the shadow is what makes us uncomfortable, right? It's a very uncomfortable place for us to go, as the shadow. It's something that we would rather deal with, but it's a necessary part for us to deal with. And I feel like Source is opening up the channel here for you to be completely 100% brutally honest with yourself. But there's still that fear that arises within you that my feelings don't matter, how I've experienced the world around me, it's not as grave as what other people have or what my family has. But your family doesn't see that part. But also with the Lilith coming out, I do feel like, because Lilith is an interesting story. You know, it just depends on what you believe in. I took women's mythology when I was in college. And Lilith was actually Adam's first wife from Adam and Eve. Eve was a secondary wife. And this is a story that doesn't get told very often. And I'm not here to make anybody believe this. What I've studied on it is that she actually got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. She was drawn from the mud with Adam. They came out together from the mud together. It wasn't she was taken from Adam's rib. They were created at the same time. They rose at the same time. But Adam, he grew weary of Lilith because she refused to submit to him, to be on the bottom all the time during their physical interactions. Like, she refused to submit. And Adam went to God and explained that he was feeling bad about not having control over Lilith. And then she got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. She actually became the protector of the Garden of Eden. And thus God created Eve for Adam. And again, I'm not here to tell you that's the reality of it or that's what's really happened. That's just when I did women's study, we talked about Lilith a lot. And so there's this energy that's coming in where it's like, right, like it's easier to believe what the masses are saying than it is to maybe look into something that is very uncomfortable or that is a deeper truth that could actually brand our foundation as negative or brand our background as negative. And so there's this energy coming through where your family is secretly thinking, like, if I actually open myself up to trusting and believing what Pile 1 has said about what they went through, I actually have to look at myself in a very negative way, and that's why they don't. And that's why it's easier to say that you're embellishing the story. Okay? Wow, that's really, really deep. So let's take a look at this card. I'm going to read this from the book. Forgiveness. I feel like this is you. Like, you're really working on forgiving what you went through with your family, and just also forgiving yourself for maybe not being able to stand up against your family when you needed yourself to, or for not knowing how to. I acknowledge that harboring resentment blocks the flow of love. Forgiveness is really difficult for people that have experienced really tough families like this, especially if there is a narcissist in your family. Like, forgiveness is a really hard emotion and journey to go through, but it is a very rewarding one. And I will say this, like, I'm not going to tell you to get over it and just forgive, right? Because that's not how forgiveness works. But my mom always said forgiveness is a daily walk. And I feel like maybe that's why I view forgiveness as such a profound journey, because I'd heard that since I was a child. But that always meant to me that we can't forgive in one go. Like, we can't just say, I forgive them for what they did and I'm over it, right? It's literally, I might be forgiving people who hurt me for the rest of my life before I come to a place where I'm sincere of heart, where I can literally lay down the burden. And I feel like that's what Source is saying here too. It's like, yeah, you've been through a lot with your family. Your family has done a lot to you. And the journey to forgiveness is not an easy one, but it can be a very profound part of your growth. And it can be a very profound part of your freedom as well, for letting go of the chains and the cage that they had placed you in for so long, the expectations that they had put over you. And the more you walk in a true space of a loving heart, the easier it will be for you to set more strict boundaries about how you let people treat you or who you let into your energy at any one point. And that's just a process, and that's going to be something that you experience your whole life through, but it is worth going down that route. Okay, so it says you can never flow with your natural energy of love unless you release the negative energy of hate, anger, intolerance, or blame. Every soul in your path has free will, and you have no control over that. What you do have control over is how you react to the manifestation of others' free will. Holding on to that negative energy will strengthen karmic cycles, and forgiveness can break that pattern. The most important person you must learn to forgive is always yourself. Blaming yourself for failures blocks the natural flow of love, which will attract all good things into your life. And it's on page 44. Are you going to focus? Come on, me friend. Okay. Yeah, so talking about strength, structure, and stability. And that's something that's really, really profound for your journey, pile one, is strength, structure, and stability. Is that something that you're building? Because that's not something that you necessarily experience in the family dynamic. But I do feel like your family secretly thinks that everything comes easy for you, and it doesn't. You were just growing up in a dynamic where it was being thrown to the wolves every time created a lot of resilience and resolve for you when you actually started taking the journey for yourself. And that's why it seems like everything comes easily to you when it doesn't actually. It's just that harder than what? Is me chasing my dream harder than dealing with the wounds that my family created? The answer is probably 100% all the time going to be no. And so it's easy for you to keep picking yourself back up and going down the opportunities, the road, the path to your dreams and your desires. But this is what I see here for you today, pile one. I hope you know that you're doing an amazing job. I'm so sorry that you've had to deal with family members like this in your past. But I want you to remember that you are deserving of good things and you matter as you are right now, okay? So this is what I see. If you felt like this was your reading, leave the little black heart emoji down below and say, by choosing to focus on, face, and see my shadow, I'm able to learn how to open my heart to self-forgiveness, which frees me from my chains of the past. And if it resonated, it would mean so much to me if you're to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're interested in supporting the channel further, you'll find everything you need in the description box. I would like to take a moment to thank your guides, your spirit messengers, your angel source, and my spirit guides for coming together to give us this deeply profound message today. And until next time, pile number one, stay human. Bye. Hello, my fellow human. If you were drawn to this dice with Pluto on it, or perhaps you felt called to this chakra bracelet, or maybe you felt called to this card during the shuffle, this is going to be your reading on what does your family secretly think of you. We are all here sharing this human experience together. I do things differently here on this channel, so there might be triggering statements that do arise on the readings themselves. There's no obligation to force it to fit, while keeping in mind that triggers can be a beautiful healing blueprint for our healing journey. We're gonna get there. If the message happens to resonate with you, it'd mean the world to me if you were to like, comment, and subscribe below. Your time, your energy, and your presence are a true gift and a blessing, and I'm deeply grateful to be here spending it with you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop to it and find out. Pile 2, what does your family secretly think of you? What does your family secretly think about you? Pile number 2. So the thing is I had this in pile 1 too with their bracelet, but it's like with the chakra system, this chakra bracelet, it's feeling like they're seeing you in alignment, like you're doing something that you were always meant to do. But I do feel like there's a lot of people in your family that don't want to admit that. Like they're too prideful to admit that, right? Of course, we're looking into how they're secretly thinking about you, but there's this energy where they see you doing something and they've known that you've always been capable of doing that. So that could be writing, that could be singing, that could be creating music, that could be building a business, that could be moving up in the company that you're in, that could be helping people, healing people. Whatever it is that you do, there's this energy where it's like, this is what pile number 2 is always meant to do, but they're not in a space where they can admit that to you either. And it's not really for any good reason. They just don't want to. Maybe because they're afraid you're going to get a big head, or that you're going to become very arrogant if they tell you that. I also feel like a lot of them don't have the capacity because they don't celebrate their own wins, and so it gives them no space to celebrate others' wins, right? But let's see what comes out here. Yeah. So we have the 5th house, Capricorn energy, yeah, and the moon. What does your family secretly think about you? That you're very... I see. Okay. I just want to point out really quickly that we're looking into how someone else is viewing you. So remember to take that with a grain of salt as this comes forward, because the first thing I heard was cynical and judgmental. That could be why they're not wanting to say something about you, is because they're afraid of being judged by you, or they're afraid that you're going to say something really harsh back to them, which I don't feel like that's who you are. I feel like you're just someone that doesn't put up with the BS. Like you don't let people push you around, including your family. And if you had at one point, you don't anymore. You're just like, no, I'm not going to put up with you guys trying to push me around anymore. I'm just not down with that. And so they're secretly thinking that, yes, maybe you've healed, you've overcome some things, but also they're secretly thinking that you're very immature in the way that you approach life. And that you have a position where you can't afford to be immature, or that you are in the public eye where you can't afford to be mature, but because they see you or they think that you're immature, they think that that's how you approach your job. And I don't feel like that's the case at all. I feel like you're a very blunt person. I mean, like, especially at work, like you say what needs to be said. You're very succinct in your approach. You're very direct in your approach, and it might rub people raw at times, or they might see you as someone that's abrasive. And your family sees that as you being overly emotional. They think that you're incredibly too emotional, that you're very sensitive. And maybe that's because they've seen other parts of you. But I feel like when it comes to what you need to do, like you take care of business in a very professional way. And that's why we have the 5th house here. You're seen as a leader. You're also seen as someone who's willing to get into the trenches and help pull the team with you doing the things that your team is doing. You're not just expecting others to take the brunt of the work. And I feel like there's a lot of loyal people around you in your work. And your family is really confused by this. And they peg it as, oh, they must be just as immature as pile number 2. Interesting energy. Let's dig in with the tarot. This is very interesting. Okay, and I just got another message here where they feel like you received your position based on sexual advances. I don't like that. I don't like that energy. Yeah, I don't like it. They don't want to see you as being able to, like that's what I'm saying. Like, they think that you're doing, right, with the chakra bracelet, like, they think that you're doing what you were always meant to be doing, but that you had a hand in getting there. That you couldn't do it by yourself because you're too immature, or you're someone that is super codependent, or you've had to rely on too many people in the past. But that doesn't mean that you're relying on people now. What does your family secretly think of you? This is an interesting energy. I don't know. We're going to dig in. Let's dig in. Let's see what's going on. What does your family secretly think about you? Yeah. This is, okay. Okay, that makes sense. This is a projection from somebody in your family. It does feel like one person particularly. This is a projection of, this is what they would have done if they had been in your same position. They would have tried anything at their disposal to get into a higher ranking position or to have a better life. And it wouldn't have mattered to them because they would have had something to hold over others. And they would have, even if that meant laying down with someone to get ahead in life, they would have done that, or they did do that. And so for them, they can't imagine that anybody else, especially anybody in the family, especially you, pile 2, would have the resolve to face it on your own. Yeah. That you would crumple the minute that it was pressured on you. The minute that pressure gets too hard, that you would just crumple. And so they're secretly thinking that right now, somebody else is helping you carry the torch, that somebody else is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you, that you're using any means possible to get ahead. And the reality is, especially with Capricorn energy here, is that you're working incredibly hard. And that could be the other thing here is, like, you're not showing them, or you're not telling them how hard it is. Or even if you have told them how hard it is, they don't want to believe it. They see it as you breezing through without any troubles. They see it, oh, it's someone else who's helping them get far ahead. It's someone else who's lifting them up. It's someone else who's doing the heavy lifting here. And they don't want to admit or believe that it's you. So there's this energy that's coming in. And again, it doesn't have to just be sexual advances. It's just they feel like you're stepping on someone else's toes, or they secretly think that you're stepping on someone else's toes to get ahead, and you don't care. But this is a projection of what they themselves have done or would consider doing to be in the position that you're in. Yeah. This is a weird, this is like a do as I say, not as I do type of energy. So they secretly think that you have it all wrong, that you're not seeing clearly. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Okay. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to go one more. I can't. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to say trigger warning before we get into this. I should have said that at the dice, but I'm going to say it right now. So, just heads up. Okay. So, your family secretly thinks that everything that you've worked hard for, or everything that you've put the effort into, right? Even though this is something that you're supposed to be doing, they do secretly think this is something that you're supposed to be doing, right? That you definitely built a foundation on it, but they are secretly thinking that you're lying about how successful you are. That the only reason you're going down this path is because you have it out for authority, and that authority is the problem. And so if you have a boss, right, like maybe you're building your own business or you're doing something on your own, some sort of side hustle here, or you're trying to create something for yourself, right? Maybe you're going to school and you're really just trying to open up your opportunities for yourself. So whatever the case is, though, I do feel like you're trying to make a better life for yourself. And they're secretly thinking that because you have it out for authority, right? They're coming from their own experiences here. You've had it out for them being an authority figure in your life, that they were able to control a lot of what you did and that you would always listen to what they had to say. This could be a Pisces, a Scorpio, or an Aries in your life. You could have that highly aspect in your chart. You could have Scorpio in the 12th house. You'd have Scorpio in the 6th house is coming through, or the 7th house as well, okay? And those are really very specific energies, but there's this energy where they're secretly thinking that you don't have the capacity to move on your own, that you need someone to tell you exactly what to do and when to do it. And that without that, you're just going to be a lazy bum. You're not going to do anything at all. And so they cannot wrap their head around the fact that you are creating something in your life right now, because they're secretly thinking that someone else is doing it for you. Like, oh, pile 2 can't do that. Like, they just physically impossible or incapable of doing it on their own. They're physically incapable of creating this on their own because they've always had such a problem with people in authority, or they've always had a problem with taking authority of their own life. And so they're like thinking that something must be falling apart and that someone is giving you a free in to that situation, that institute, or that job, that you have already lied about what it is that you've created, and that you're trying to convince everybody that you're someone that you're not, even though they do feel like this is the direction you're meant to go in. I feel like maybe this is also pointing out to, they always believed that you would lie about how far you've come in life. Like, this isn't anything new. Like, of course pile 2 is going to lie about where they've come in life, because pile 2's always lied about everything that they've done in life. And the thing is that they're not realizing that you're actually an incredibly brutally honest person. And I feel like they just make it better for themselves, or this is also family that creates a lot of gossip about you. And the thing that they've always relied on is that you're a liar. You lie to everybody. You lie to everybody. And that's the only way that they've ever had people believe them, is because they've painted you as this liar that doesn't do anything, that isn't trying to create any good in their lives, that you are someone that's very difficult to talk to, that you're someone who is defeated at every turn you take. Like, you've never created any kind of success in your life. Why would now be anything different? Ugh, I don't like this energy. I'm so sorry. If this is resonating with you, I'm just so sorry. Like, this just feels like maybe you had some really rich parents growing up and that life just wasn't for you, and you're like, no, I'm getting out of here. And it doesn't have to be like that either, right? Like, it could have been that you grew up with family that was like, it was only about money, and they made everything about money, that you only had worth when you were working, when you were helping pay their bills, or when you were helping to take care of them, or when you were contributing. Like, other than that, you never received love. You never received admiration. Like, you were always just expected to be productive. Like, it could be also like if you didn't receive good grades, like you were diminished because of that. And I feel like that's the thing. Like, they always felt like they had to maintain a reputation, and they still feel like they have to maintain a reputation around their friends and the people that they talk to. And so they secretly think that you're lying about where you're at, and you're lying about what it is that you're doing, and that you're not telling them the whole story. And there may be some truth to that, where you're not telling them the whole story, but you have no obligation to tell them the whole story, pile 2. You have no obligation. So they feel like you're misguided. And with the Chariot in the reverse here, it just feels like they think that, so this could be a family that's very religious, or very, like, they go to church every Sunday and they expect you to go to church too. And you could be someone that's more spiritual, or it's maybe you are religious, but you just don't go to the same church that they go to. And so they feel like you're spiritually misguided here too. Like, oh, what you believe in is false, and it's fake, and it's a lie, and we're going to tell everybody that you're a big liar. What the heck? That you're trying to show off something that you don't really have. That you're arrogant. That you've lost touch with the people and reality around you. I feel like you've had to close off from your family, though. Because this is a really hard energy. This is even dealing, like, going through the reading here, like, this is a really difficult energy to channel just because it's just very overwhelming. Like, I'm right and you're wrong. I'm big and you're little. I'm old and you're young. So I'm right no matter what. Even if you're right, you're still wrong. What? Huh? That doesn't make any sense at all. What? Hold up here, right? Yeah, and they feel like you always play the victim. Like they're looking at you as someone who plays on people's hearts. You tell stories that don't exist, or you always use big crocodile tears to get your way. And that you are trying, like, you don't want, okay, there we go. That's what it is. You don't want to be normal. You would do anything to be seen as not normal. But I feel like what their version of normal and what your version of normal are two vastly different things. Because I feel like living in your family's normal is chaotic and overwhelming and constrictive. That's the main thing here. It's very constrictive. And for you, you just want freedom. You could have a Sagittarius rising, or Sagittarius moon is coming in as well, or Sagittarius highly aspect in your chart as well. It just feels very, very constrictive. Like, I cannot do this. Very oppressive energy. And the thing is that they're really trying to take it out on you because they feel like you are sharing bits about your life that you shouldn't share with others. Like, no one needs to know that. But I also feel like what you're sharing has been healing for you and maybe healing for others too. If you are sharing bits of your life, many of you might not even be sharing anything at all, but they're just assuming that you're sharing stories. They are assuming that you're saying things about them. This is a family member, and it does feel like one family member in particular, but it could be your entire family thinks this way or feels this way too. Like, they all follow the matriarch or the patriarch here. And no one wants to go against that type of energy because they feel like they're going to get cut off or cut out. Or disowned even. And there's this energy where they're like, if you don't do what I say, then I'll make sure the whole world turns against you. And they have things that it's like, it's easier for me to lie that pile number 2 is lying about us, that's sharing stories about us, even if I know or don't know that they are. It's easier for me to lie about it so that I can maintain face. But for you, it's not about that. I feel like for you, it's about finally being absolved from the expectations that have been placed on you and finding freedom with your own journey. We had house 2 that flipped over here with physical security, possessions, material values, and self-worth. Yeah, so for you, you traded, this is what it feels like. And it doesn't have to be material values, but this is what it feels like. It feels like you've traded material values for self-worth. Self-worth meant more to you than material values. Is like, you know, I would rather go and have a menial job and be able to pay my bills and get by and enjoy my life than to have everything at my disposal and be living a miserable life like my family. But this, again, doesn't mean that you necessarily come from money. It could be this is a mentality, right? So where you have a family that plays keeping up with the Joneses even though they can't afford to. And they're the ones that are digging themselves a huge hole of deficit, trying to maintain this image that we've got deep pockets when they don't. And they expect everybody to suffer that same way. And you're like, no, like, you may drive an older vehicle that's all paid off. Like, you may have a small home that's you're paying off, right? Like, you're not trying to live in a big old mansion and have a brand new ride and all these things that, like, your family thinks is important, because you would rather have your pride and your worth intact than that, right? You know, everybody's like, oh, pride's a bad thing, but it's no, not in this instance. It's not, because it's more about how you feel about yourself, and that's what they're referring to. Yeah, water energy with Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, spirituality, emotion, intuition, and compassion. And that's what I was saying. Like, it's like You're more in this place of compassion than you are being driven by the need to maintain an image. But your family's need to maintain an image is what drives them to thinking this way. Whether they know the truth about you or not, I feel like many of your family actually doesn't know the truth. And if any of your family does know the truth, they're using what they know and twisting it so that it benefits them in the long run and their image. Yeah, look at this. Wow, trusting tricksters. The trickster's only power is your trust. You are always free to withdraw it. And that's what Source is saying here. It's like, don't trust tricksters. I feel like you're aware that this is how your family thinks and feels about you. And this is just Source reminding you that it's okay for you to limit contact if that's what you're being called to do, right? And I said this in pile 1, like, I'm not ever going to tell somebody, like, you need to cut them out of your life, because everybody's story is different. But I will remind you of this. It's vital for you to pay attention to your intuition and to trust what it's telling you to do, whatever that is, and however that plays out for you, because that's going to be ultimately the best path for you, right? But they're tricking you, or they're trying to trick you into giving them information, into giving them, access to you in a certain way. And it's because they want more information to continue their myriad of lies that they're sharing. Yeah, and then we have Asclepios here with sacred medicine. And I feel like, again, it's like you've learned to work with this instead of against it, instead of trying to let them rule your life. And when I say you're working with them, what it is that we can't change a snake, right? We can't turn a snake into a bunny. It's always going to be a snake. And realizing that a snake can be potentially very harmful for us, right? Whether there's venom or, there's the bites, or there's just the danger of the snake, right? We recognize the danger, and we recognize that we cannot control that danger, but we can control how we choose to show up. And I feel like you're choosing to show up from a place of peace and calm, and that is even more irritating to them, and that makes them even feel like that you're even more so that you're lying about things and that you're not sharing certain things. And that may be true. You're not obligated to share anything with anybody, no matter what role they play in your life. Like, there's just because you're my mom, I have to tell you everything. Like, that's that's not true. That's not true. Just because you're my family, or just because, you're my siblings, like, that's not true. You can share what you want, but if you don't want to share it, don't share it. Let's see what else comes out for you. Pile number 2. Yeah, this is a very heavy energy. Like, I imagine that this was really difficult. Some of you got emancipated at a young age from this family too. That was a very clear message that just came in. Yeah. Yeah, okay, fear. This is an interesting energy to come out with this reading, because what I'm getting with this fear card is that they're afraid that you're going to do better than they did. Your family is afraid that, so if they're keeping up with the Joneses and they're putting themselves bankrupt because of it, their biggest fear is that one day you'll become a multimillionaire or billionaire, and you'll be able to buy whatever you want, like a drop in the bucket, and you're going to be doing better than them. And the other thing is that they fear that if that's the case, that you're still not going to show it off like they would expect you to. And that makes them feel really bad for some reason. That's a really weird way to feel, but it is. It's like, oh, well, so pile 2 has all this money, but they're not trying to rub it in our faces like we would. And I feel like realizing that you're so vastly different than them. And again, it doesn't have to be money. That's just the example that keeps coming up here, right? Because that's what Source is showing me. So it could be anything. It could be the way you talk. It could be the way that you act. It could be the way that you work. It could be anything. Like, there's this expectation of how you're supposed to show up, what they think that you should show up like. And their biggest fear is that you're going to be stepping out and having more success in life than what they did, and you'll still never show up from that arrogant place. And that scares them even more, because it's almost like they did everything that they could to condition you, because that was what's been expected from the family line for a long time. Aristocrats. It's like, you know, when you see like nobility and stuff like that in some TV shows, like they're like, oh, that's how aristocrat, wow, I can talk. You ever seen the Disney movie Aristocats? That's what kept trying to come out. So no, but aristocrats, that's how they act sometimes in those shows and those movies, like when we look at like historical romance and stuff like that. So there's like this arrogance, like, oh, I have money and I'm entitled to arrogance. And it's like your family feels like they're entitled to arrogance because of their background, whatever that is. And they're afraid that you're actually going to gain access to the reality of being able to have that arrogance, where they don't have access to whatever it is that they feel like they had or should have to give them that arrogance. They're just showing up from an arrogant place. So that's why they're showing me money here. It's like, oh, well, they think that money gives them the right to treat people however they want, to be cruel and vicious, and to treat everybody as less than, and to look down their nose at everybody else because they come from this background of money. And you never did. But their biggest fear is that you'll have money and one day you'll look at them that way, or even worse for them, you'll never look at them that way, that you'll literally just walk away. And I feel like that's because that's how you feel about it. Cooperation, acceptance, listening, teamwork, win-win. Yeah, this is the energy that you're coming from. Cooperation, it's about you and the people that you connect with and the people that matter to you. It's not about everybody's background. It's about, do we mesh? Do we vibe? Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See, they're jealous, possessiveness, competitiveness, dependence, and paranoia. This is that fear at play here. They're very jealous. They really believe you're going to outshine them. They really believe you're going to outdo them. And that could be with anything, your talents, your abilities, the way that you're earning money, you're building a business, whatever it is, they're jealous and they're afraid that you're going to outshine them. Reject. And that's the other thing that was coming through. They're afraid you're going to reject them. This is what they're secretly thinking. Negation, never, forbid, taboo. That you're going to reject them, because I feel like your family sees your value and your worth, but they don't want you to know your value and your worth, because that scares them too. Yeah, so they do secretly think that you're very creative. So that goes back to hand in hand with what I was saying. Like, they do feel like what you're doing is something you were meant to do. So maybe this is something you did when you were a child. So like if you were a writer as a child, like maybe you always wrote little stories, and you know, being your family, you probably shared them with your family. And so they realize, oh, like Pile 2 is always meant to be a writer. Like they're meant to be a writer, but I can't handle it if they become a famous writer. Right? Like, that's what it's like. They're like, yeah, of course, you were meant to be a writer. You should absolutely go towards writing. But if you become famous, we're going to have a problem. Right? Like, that's how they feel about it. Ugh. What did I say? You were so honest. You're a very honest person. And that's why I feel like they think that you're lying, but you're not. You're very honest. Maybe you don't always share all the details, but you share what's necessary. And just because you share what's necessary doesn't make you a dishonest person. It says to believe in the facade is to suffocate in the armor of alienation, self-defeat, and self-denial. And that's where they're at. They're in this place of self-defeat and self-denial. They're alienating themselves and they don't realize it. Like, they're creating a really bad situation for themselves, especially when it comes to you. So I feel like the minute that you're able to, if you haven't already, you're very much going to be limiting contact with them. And they're going to fill that deficit for sure. This came out in Pile 1. Not this card, but this message to forgive. And I am not sure how to say her name. Teoto. Something like that. Forgive. Mayan, I believe. I'd have to look at the book. But this is just that card talking about forgiveness. And I honestly feel like many of you in Pile 2, you've been led down the journey of forgiveness, but not forgetfulness. And it's like forgiveness is saying, I'm done holding the burden that was my family. I'm ready to free myself from those situations, from the judgments, from the expectations. I'm ready to free myself from the unattainable demands that they had by this forgiveness. And also forgiving yourself for maybe falling back into traps that they set or manipulations that they set, right? And through that, you're able to move on. But I also feel like this forgiveness that you have of self, it really does feel like self, right? And we can only forgive others when we've truly forgiven ourselves. And that's why forgiveness can be a very hard journey. Is they say we'll never forgive others for what they did to us because we don't want to give them a free pass for how they treated us. But remembering that forgiveness is not a free pass. Forgiveness is laying down the burden, the anchor of the memories and the pain and the suffering. And that will always be our choice, pile 2. Like there's no expectations, there's no demand for forgiveness here. It's just part of what you learn on the journey. And eventually it's something that we come to know. Once we've forgiven ourselves, we can then see the situation for what it truly was. And we realize that even though they maybe tried to make it personal, it never was personal. And that gives us a reason to lay down the resentment, the blame, and the anger. And I feel like that's something that you're coming to know in regards to this situation, and in coming to this cooperation energy with Source, with your guides, and with the people who do care and love about you. You're seeing that, like, if I hadn't have gone through what I went through in the past, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I wouldn't have the beautiful things that I've experienced. And while that's not saying that what you went through was okay or that you deserved it, it's just recognizing that experiencing all those hardships had you making choices that led you to this now moment. So let's take a look at this card. I'm going to read this from the book. Let me grab the book. I'm going to see what it says. Surrender. I can release my need to control. So what a powerful energy. And I feel like this is really powerful for you, pile 2, because you're letting go of controlling how they see you, controlling the outcome of the situation, right? That also goes hand in hand with the forgive card here. It's like, I cannot control how they show up, right? What were we saying about Asclepios here, right? I can't control that they're a snake, but I can be aware that they're a snake and act accordingly, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're not going to jump back into a snake's den, right? We're going to go around. We're going to protect ourselves. That's what's so important here. So it says you need to understand the distinction between power and control. You have the power of internal control, but very little external control over people or situations. The majority of your external control is through the power of influence. You can lead by example. Every soul has its own unique path, and it is not your job to dictate it. Giving advice or direction in a compassionate manner is the way to go. Your soul too has a path, and you possess the power to control it, but you must surrender the illusion that you have control over another. Remember that this is a process, and from time to time, your ego will rise up and demand that things be the way that they should be. And we were talking about that. That's exactly the type of energy that your family came through. Like, you should be this way. Envision a hot air balloon being loaded up with all of the things that you think you need to control and let them ride away in the balloon. You'll be surprised to find that when you release the energy of control and accept the energy of surrender, doors will open to you that you never expected, because you have now given the universe space in which to materialize what is needed for your highest soul growth. So you're definitely moving on. And I feel like while your family can't deny that you're doing something that you were always meant to do, they just don't have it in them to encourage you, because it's not ever an energy that they've come from, is lifting you up and encouraging you. Like, they've built a life with you on judgment and minimizing you, because that's all that they've also known. And so that's just where they're at right now. And just remembering that we can't control another's free will, right? Like, they have the choice to show up as a snake, or they can choose to show up as a person. And in this case, they've shown up as a snake. But for you, you've learned some very valuable wisdom. You've learned some healing techniques, and you've learned to let go of a lot of those things that were holding you back. And stepping into that place of radical honesty has helped you to be honest with yourself, while also being honest with those around you, even if they don't like to hear that honesty. being able to speak your truth has been a very empowering trait for you, or it is about to become for you, okay? So this is what I see here for you today, pile 2. If you felt like this was your reading, leave a little snake emoji down below and say, I trust my intuition, and I know that a snake is a snake, and there's no reason for me to try and control it to become something else. So I free myself from this burden. And if it resonated, it would mean so much to me if you were to like, comment, and subscribe below. And if you're interested in supporting the channel further, you'll find everything you need in the description box. So I'd like to take a moment to thank your guides, your spiritual messengers, your angel source, and my spirit guides for coming together to give us this very powerful, very heavy message today. I want you to know that you're doing an amazing job, pile 2. So keep being you, because we need your light in the world, all right? And until next time, stay human. Bye. Hello, my fellow human. If you were drawn to this dice with the South Node on it, or perhaps you were drawn to this selenite bracelet, or maybe you were called to this card during the shuffle, this is going to be your reading on what does your family secretly think about you. We are all here sharing this human experience together. I do things differently here on this channel. So there might be triggering statements that do arise on the readings themselves. There's no obligation to force it to fit, while remembering that triggers can be a beautiful blueprint for us to deepen our healing journey. If the message resonates, it would mean the world to me if you were to like, comment, and subscribe below. Your time, your energy, and your presence are a true gift and a blessing, and I'm deeply honored to be here sharing it with you today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop to it and find out, pile 3, what does your family secretly think about you? What does your family secretly think about you, pile number 3? Okay. So we've got the second house, we've got Cancer, and we've got Mars. You are aggressively trying to heal yourself. Okay. Maybe a little too much. And I feel like for you, you're doing it the way that you need to. You could talk to your family about things that you recognize, like toxic traits or toxic things that you went through as a family. And to people who aren't healing, they don't like that. Oh well, right? Oh well. But healing is so powerful. And it feels like you found so much self-belief through your healing and emotional stability. And that's why you keep doing it. That's why you keep moving. And that's why it's become like second nature for you. Like if something comes up, you can see what it's mirroring back to you and you heal accordingly. And that feels like, pile 3, that you've been on the healing journey for a long time. Like longer than a few years, this feels like. And some of you could have picked up really quickly on how to heal. But if not, like this is something it's going to be turning into a snowball rolling down the hill within a short amount of time. Like it's just going to start rolling and you're going to start seeing things that are mirrored back to you. But I do feel like your family is secretly thinking like they don't like the fact that you share what you've learned about their toxic traits. Like the way they treated you or how they raised you or what you think about these things that have always been in part of the family for so long. Like it could even be certain traditions that they have or, you know, like things you don't talk about, right? Like maybe this is an energy that's coming up, but like if you're a woman and when you got your cycle for the first time, maybe the other women in your life just didn't talk about it at all. We don't talk about that, but it's something that all women go through. Like we should be able to support each other. But I see that a lot with a lot of women. Like it's really hard for us to talk about our cycle because older generations just didn't talk about it, right? They're like, oh, it's something to be ashamed of, but it's where life comes from, right? Or for men, maybe it's like you went through a period where your voice got deeper and you were going through that where it was getting really high and scratchy and squeaky, and they're like, we don't talk about that. It'll just go away one day. And there was no encouragement, right? So like going through puberty is something that you needed to talk to each other about, and maybe it was something that they made you feel really bad about. Okay, this is just the example that's coming through. It could be anything. It could be your grades, it could be life, it could be just you being you. But it's almost like whatever it was, they're just like, we don't talk about that. And in not talking about it, it created a trauma for you because you had to learn how to deal with something without support, without encouragement, without just someone being there for you when you needed someone there for you. And so your family just secretly thinks that like, they wish that you didn't take this healing journey at all because it's really starting to show their inadequacies, and it's really starting to point out the things that they just believe this is how life should be. So again, like if it's your cycle, this again, just an example, if you're a guy on here, just take what resonates, right? So, but this is just something that they're showing. It's like with the cycle, it's like, maybe you had your own child and your own daughter, and when she started her cycle, like maybe you made it a celebration for her and you got the family involved and was like, this is what you're going to experience and this is what you're going to go through, but we don't need to be embarrassed about this. And you told your family to come and support her, and maybe they didn't come and support her, and they were just like, oh, I wish that pile 3 never talked about this. I wish that they'd never healed this. But for you, it was really important to show your daughter that she had support. Or maybe it was your son going through puberty, and you're like, this should be something that's celebrated and not denied or not hidden under the rug just because you didn't talk about it. We need to start supporting each other for this. And so your family is secretly thinking that you're very aggressive in the way that you're bringing healing about. And you don't have to have kids at all, but you could be saying things like, you know what, when you talked to me this way, or when you expected me to get these types of grades, or when you put me through this when I was little and you made me sit in the corner because of this and it wasn't really that big of a deal. Like you're pointing out things to your family that they don't like. And they wish that you would go back to the time when you were meek and you listened to what they had to say instead of finding courage to stand on your own. Yeah, this is somebody here's a manipulator. So you've called them out on their manipulations and they don't like that. They've always been able to get away with what they've done in the past. So this could be a narcissist in your family and you keep calling them out. And every time you call them out, they just really wish that you went back to being that meek person who they could control. You're no longer controllable. Yeah. Interesting. Could be a father. It could be an Aries. It could be a Cancer or Taurus. What does your family secretly think about you, pile number 3? Thank you, source. What does your family secretly think about you, pile number 3? I just heard that you're following the crowd. You're doing what other people are doing. Like, you're not finding your own way. But that's not how this feels. Okay, so I'll take that as a clarifier here. On the bottom of the deck, yeah. You know, what source is saying is that you've outgrown something here. But they don't want to see it that way. Yeah, they want to see it as you. Oh, yeah, okay. They really feel like you're following someone else's lead now, like someone else is manipulating you, someone else is controlling you, because that's all they've ever seen you as, is somebody that's been easily controlled. And so they secretly think that someone else is controlling you now. Yeah, someone else is smooth talking you. Oh my goodness. Okay, what else do we got? Of course, we've got here that it could be a relationship, someone you're in love with. Oh my gosh. Okay. We just had some really difficult families today, and that's fine. I mean, I get it. Like, I'm also one that's come from a family that's, after healing from it, just like, wow, you know, like, you go through stuff like that, you learn how to have a backbone. Or you get thrown to the wolves and you don't, you know, like it's just, but I feel like you've learned how to have a backbone, pile 3. And this could be a Gemini, a Leo, and Aquarius, heavy Aquarius energy. Also Libra is coming in, or you could have Libra in the 4th house, Gemini in the 12th house is coming in, and Aquarius 11th house placements. Mercury in Taurus is coming in as well. Okay. Let me take a drink. So what your family secretly thinks about you is that you're easily manipulated by people that you fall in love with. They think that you're constantly having a revolving door for relationships, and all those relationships are what's keeping them from being able to manipulate you. Like there's people here who are smooth talking you into believing that what you're doing is healing, but because they're taking it so personally when you're calling them out, especially if you have a narcissistic parent or a narcissist in your life, in family, when you're calling them out and you're catching them in their lie in front of everybody, it feels like it's like they're mad because they feel like there's someone else in your life that took that role from them and they want that role back. They're not looking at it as you actually healing or purifying your energy. They feel like you are being taken on a joyride by someone else's idea. So it could be like maybe you got together with someone recently, or maybe you're talking to people online or something, or they're feeling the disconnect of your energy here. So you're not like focused on them the way that you were before, and they feel like the only time that you're not focused on them like that is when you're inviting someone else into your life. And I don't feel like that's necessarily true. I just feel like you realized you had to let go. And you had to start cutting ties with them, or you had to do like a cord cutting ceremony with them, with their energy, because you had to free yourself from the limitations of the situation. But they secretly think that you're easily sweet talked into believing anything, that you don't have a mind of your own. I don't know. I was hoping for some more positive readings today, but I just feel like collectively right now there's a lot of people that are healing from really difficult backgrounds. Let's see what else comes out today. I do feel like they secretly think that you're very, like, immature is coming in, but that you're ignorant. That's the word. That your mind is trying to convince you that you're better than you are. No. Yeah. House 1, individuality, self-image, and your approach to life. Like, you're learning how to be confident in who you are, and it's going against their agenda, and they don't like that. This is a family or someone in your family that really wants control over you. You're in some way, shape, or form, or you have been in some way, shape, or form, their supply. And now that they can't get a supply from you, and they felt like you were always going to be a constant supply for them, like they're starting to panic. And so they're just secretly thinking that you're being manipulated by someone else because there's no way that pile 3 will ever think for themselves. They never have. We have distorted desire. Conscious desire rarely satisfies the unconscious need for driving it. So they're not seeing reality here. And the melting mask. It says, allow your spirit self to shine through the many roles you fulfill. So they're not seeing this as you actually becoming the true self, right? They're not seeing that. They refuse to acknowledge that. But that's what's happening here. And no matter how much they refuse to acknowledge that, there's no denying it either, right? They're just trying to create excuses here for themselves. Like, oh, they're just being manipulated by someone else. Or they could be telling you, like, you need to get new friends. You don't have really good friends. Or I'll never let you associate with these people. They're delinquents. And so on and so forth. They're like trying to regain that control. Lantern, consciousness and light. Yeah. So the thing is that you're seeing clearly now, and there's no going back. Like, you're raising your consciousness. And also for you, pile 3, you might really resonate with the collective message at the beginning of the reading, because this is kind of that same energy that came in. And it's timestamped down below in the description box if you're interested, only if you feel called to, right? But you've also built some sort of foundation and you're letting go of karmic cycles, and they're a part of your karmic cycle to let go of, part of the South Node. Oh my gosh, and didn't you have the South Node dice? Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's the thing, like there's this part of the South Node and you're starting to step up into a very abundant place in your life. Look at this, cosmic knowledge with Merlin. That's what Source is saying, like you're tapping into the Akashic records here. You're being shown the way from your guides and from the spiritual realm, and they're trying to convince themselves that you're crazy or that you don't know what's going on or that someone else is convincing you that you're better than you really are. Why do I hear that song? Smooth operator. Yeah, so they feel like there's a smooth operator in your life, but that's because they were always a smooth operator in your life. They just don't really think that you have the capacity to defend yourself or that you have the capacity to think for yourself. You've always needed someone to lean on. But I don't feel like even that's true. I feel like the problem is that when you're in a manipulative situation, people are convincing you that you need to lean on them. And when you're in a place where you don't know how to empower yourself, it's easy to assume that you're incapable of self-empowerment because you do give your power away, but that's because of manipulation. It's not because you're actually disempowered. We choose to give our power away because we don't see any other option. And that's what happens, especially if it's a narcissist, right? They convince us that we're crazy. They convince us that we're no good. They convince us that no one loves us. And being convinced, when we allow ourselves that, right? Because it's something that we at some point agree with what they're saying to us. Like, even if we don't want to, there's something inside of us that says, I agree with what they're saying, so I might as well just submit to it. And when we're learning how to let go of that and empower ourselves, it drives them wild because they always believed that they had won. But, you can only suppress oh my goodness, excuse me. You can only suppress or oppress people for so long before they revolt. And I feel like that's exactly what happened, is you revolted and they don't want to look at it as you having a revolution for your own life. But that's exactly what happened here, especially with Merlin and cosmic knowledge coming out. You had a revolution and you grew because of that. Look at that. Yeah, Kalima, spiritual transformation. Right? So here's the other thing too. There's a family member here who is secretly thinking that you are tapping into something that's incredibly dangerous. And that's the only reason why you have this backbone now. So they could really be very conservative and you're not. And you're very spiritually, very open to getting help from the divine and however that comes. And that could scare the living bejeebus out of them. And they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like they're tapping into dark magic or they're connecting with demonic spirits and this, that, and the other. And that's the only reason why they have any of this power. It's like they would never have this power otherwise. But the truth is I feel like that's the thing, this person, and I'm not ever going to say that narcissists are demonic. Like, I know there's so many people that say they're demonic. It's just that they fed the shadow wolf for so long. I can't remember. I think it was Napoleon Hill who said, those who first start in crime, right? At first they abhor it. Then they accept it. Then they become influenced by it. And I feel like that's the same with narcissists. When a narcissist begins, at first they abhor it. But it's the only way they can protect themselves. Then they accept it. Because it's gotten them results that being other ways have not. And then they become influenced by those actions because that's all they know. And so that's why I feel like it's important to remind ourselves that narcissists are made, they're not born. And I feel like what this person is truly believing is that you've tapped into something that's incredibly too frightening for them, but also for some of you that you have gotten connected with someone who is an even bigger threat than they are. With this Kalima energy here. And so they think that you're too wild and that you need to take it down a notch. Oh well. Be wild, be free. Do you, right? Because the melting mass shows that here. You're finally accepting a part of yourself. You're moving on from them with the movement card coming out. Yeah, you're moving on. Right? I don't want to go through this anymore. I don't want to put myself through this anymore. And in their mind, they just can't wrap their head around what it is that would ever keep you from being a part of their life like that, or letting them have control. They just can't accept it. And that's fine. It doesn't matter if they accept it or not. It's just that you're taking care of yourself, and that's the only thing that you ever needed to do. You're running away from the storm. Right? You don't need to put yourself through more suffering just because this person or these people hold a label in your life. There's no reason to continue to put yourself through suffering. You've gained so much wisdom from this situation, and it's been hard to gain that wisdom, but it's also served you in various life situations as well. Yeah, death. This is a situation that is going bye-bye. Like, this is something that you have ended in your life. And they are having a hard time accepting that. And so for them, in order for them to make sense of what's going on with you, pile 3, they have to say that, oh, you're crazy, or you're being influenced by someone else. There's no reason why pile number 3 would ever cut me out of their life. So they're just trying to make sense of it in the only way that they know how, and that's that there's someone that's a bigger threat than they are. And they feel like that's a lover. Seduce, lover, and lust. With flirt here, they feel like you've connected with a love interest, and this love interest is far more manipulative than they ever could be, and they've lost the fight to someone that has a better stance. And they're jealous of that too. Like, they're jealous because they know how beneficial having your energy around is, right? They felt like you were going to be a lifetime supply for them. Painting, tell a story, convey emotion, decorating, or shaping. You know, and that's the thing, like, they don't realize how much they helped you connect with your intuition because of how they showed up. Like, you had to learn how to read the room. You became, that's why empaths are created, right? The same thing. Empathy is actually a coping mechanism to people who are narcissistic or who are very aggressive and oppressive and overwhelming. It's not, I mean, everybody has the ability to tap into our empathy and to develop it as a skill, but it is a skill that comes about as a child because of a coping mechanism. Because we needed to read the room in order to save face, right? Like, oh my gosh, everybody's in a bad mood today. I'm going to go back to my room and read a book, or I'm going to draw. I'm going to work on my homework. I'm going to make sure that I'm safe because this is really overwhelming. And if that wasn't a safe haven for us, we had to learn how to navigate turmoil by being that supply for others, because we didn't have a way of running away until we had a way of running away, right? But that's why empaths are, and that's why narcissists are attracted to empaths, because that's where the constant supply comes from, especially from an empath that is disempowered. They are people pleasers, and that's what a narcissist wants in order to feel very empowered and grandiose. And they don't have to be a grandiose narcissist. This could be a covert narcissist, right? And covert narcissists are sometimes even worse than grandiose narcissists, for the simple fact that they know how to play on your emotional well-being. And so it's hard for people to recognize that they're narcissists, because a covert narcissist will actually shed tears. They'll actually tell you stories that plug on your heartstrings. Like, they're not, a grandiose narcissist is one that blows up at everything, and they're very aggressive and they're very overwhelming. And that's why sometimes it's really hard for people who are dealing with covert narcissists to get out of situations, is because, especially an empath, because they play on the empath's heartstrings. And they know how to do that. And it's not just about diminishing them. They know how to do it in a way to draw them back in. It's the hook. It's a bait and hook story, and that's how they do it. And they do it through their heartstrings and stories, or revealing parts about themselves that they know are going to benefit them in the long run to bring back their supply. And the thing is here is with this painting card, what Source is saying to you, pile 3, is that what they'll never understand is that this situation, having to deal with them, is actually what opened your third eye in a very powerful way. And it helped you connect with the divine. And even though the journey may have been incredibly lonely, it's given you insight to the incredible power that lies within you. And when you believe in yourself, you can achieve anything. And that's what Source is saying here. Okay. I also feel like your story, what you've gone through, is an example for others to help heal others from something like this as well. And that doesn't mean that you have to go and share it, by speaking it. It could be that maybe this is fuel for you to writing a very unique story, or it's fuel for you to creating a safe haven for people, or it's fuel for you to go around the world and meet people and just share your love and light that way by getting away from them, right? Yeah, limit, boundary, speeding, and explosion. So you've set some boundaries here, and that helped give you some distance from them, but it also created a lot of tension between you and them as well. And that's why I feel like this is a very tense connection here. This is a very overwhelming connection. And you may or may not stay in touch with this person. Again, it's just, and no judgment if you have to stay in touch with this person. What I'm saying here is that everybody's in a different place in their life, but when you do connect with this person, it creates a lot of resistance, and there's a lot of aggressive energy that's exchanged between you and them because of how overbearing they are. Conjunction, a union, a merging, and a coming together. So this could even be a spouse with the conjunction card here. But also I feel like this is confirmation with the flirt card that they really believe the reason they lost you is because you're interested in someone else. And you could be. I mean, good for you if you are, but I feel like most of you, pile 3, you're not even looking for a relationship right now because you're still trying to heal from this madness. And that is something that you're trying to really overcome, and it's not about really having that union right now. But others of you could have been looking for a union, and that's fine, right? That's perfectly fine. If that's what helped you overcome this situation, then that's amazing that you have somebody in your life to support you in that way now, because you so much deserve that. And I hope you honor that too for yourself and recognize that you deserve that good. And even if you don't have love in your life, pile 3, I hope you honor and respect that for yourself too, that you do deserve good things. Because dealing with someone like this, there's a point in time that we come to when we feel like we'll never have anything good in our lives. And it's hard to believe that we're deserving of good things when we've had to deal with someone like this from a young age. And maybe this person is the reason why you had difficult relationships like this when you got older too. Okay, so let's take a look at this card. We're going to read this from the book. We're going to see what it says. Yeah, guilt. Oh my gosh. I release any beliefs that no longer assist in my soul's growth. This feels like it's directly for you. I do feel like there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of guilt in letting this person go, in saying no more. And it could be more than one person. This could be your whole family. It could be, there's guilt here. It's like, oh my gosh, like, how do I let them go? Like, we're family, but I have said this on other readings, and I'll say it again. Blood isn't always thicker than water. And as much as I wish that weren't the truth, it's unfortunate. But sometimes, and someone posted on the comments not too long ago that was talking about how, and it's from Matthew. It's from the book of Matthew. And I'm not super religious or anything, but I have read the Bible multiple times through, and they wrote it on one of the comments, and if you're watching this reading, if you would post it again, but it was talking about how, like, it's like, I don't even know how to say it, like the quote, I couldn't even tell you this quote, but it was talking about how it's like everybody that's closest to us are oftentimes the ones that are the harshest with us, and we have to open our eyes to that. And that's what Source is helping us do, is open our eyes to the harsh enemies that reside around us and within our safety, in our safe haven, so that we can make decisions that are going to better benefit us and go towards people who love and appreciate us. And sometimes that leaves us feeling guilty about letting go of people who we thought were supposed to always be a part of our lives. So it says the energy of fear has many guises to complicate your path to loving yourself. Guilt is the most devious because it is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It is self-imposed emotion that pretends to be instructive and enlightening. Guilt can help us grow when we realize that our actions have been hurtful to others and we need to make amends. After we do so, though, it's time to learn from the behavior and move on. The problem arises when we hold on to the guilty feeling that serves no purpose other than promoting self-destructiveness and low self-esteem. No one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Guilt is not always rational, but if you examine it subjectively, act on it, and release it, it becomes a temporary emotion. Long-held guilt feelings are never good and will create a roadblock to self-love and happiness. You must continually scan your current emotions for any guilty feelings and bring them to the surface for analysis. Healthy guilt is a warning that action should be taken. Irrational guilt needs to be released. And that's the thing. It's like, is this a healthy guilt or is this an irrational guilt? And I feel like the thing is irrational because this person or your family has used guilt as a means to bait and hook you. And we talked about that earlier in the reading. That's what they wanted you to feel bad. They pulled on your heartstrings. So you could be very well dealing with or have dealt with a covert narcissist, which they are very talented at doing that because they know that guilt is a way to win people into their lives. And they play on your heartstrings. They'll do that. That's why they say the difference between a grandiose narcissist and a covert narcissist and why it's so hard to see covert narcissists is because covert narcissists know how to play the emotional side of the spectrum. And a grandiose narcissist does not, because they're always looking to be the best of the best. Nothing they do is wrong. And while that's narcissistic energy all around, a covert narcissist will admit that they've done wrong if they know it will bait and hook you. And that's why sometimes they're really hard to see. And so if you've had to deal with this pile 3, I'm so sorry. You never deserved that. And you never deserved going through all of that. What I want to tell you, though, is that it's okay. It's okay to let go and to free yourself from any guilt in letting go. Because they made their choice and they showed you who they are. And you've given them time after time after time after time opportunities to change and to show up from a place of love and kindness. And if they've broken that trust time and time again, then it's up to you to protect yourself. And sometimes that means letting go and moving on. So I ask and I plead with you to trust your intuition as you move forward from this situation. And remember that what you went through may have given you strength, but in no way, shape, or form was it something you deserved. It simply was. It simply happened because we live in a world where people have free will. And that's how they chose to show up. They chose to feed the wolf of shadow. They did not choose to feed the wolf of light, and you chose to feed the wolf of light. But just because they chose to feed the wolf of shadow does not mean that you have to continue to suffer at their hands. Okay? So this is what I see here for you today. If you felt like this was your reading, leave the little rose emoji down below and say, sometimes to find the beauty in life, we get pricked by the thorns. And the thorns teach us valuable lessons along the way. And if it resonated, it would mean so much to me if you were to like, comment, and subscribe below. And if you're interested in supporting the channel further, you'll find everything you need in the description box. I'd like to take a moment to thank your guides, your spirit messengers, your angel source, and my spirit guides for coming together to give us this truly, truly powerful message. And I want you to know, Pile 3, you are an amazing individual. You have a beautiful heart and soul, and you deserve amazing good things in your life. I can tell you until I'm blue in the face, the most important thing here is that you believe it for yourself. And if you don't believe it today, wake up every day for the next 30 days and tell yourself that in the mirror, and I can promise you good things are going to happen and things are going to change for you. Love yourself. More than anything, you have so much love to give. Give that love to yourself, please. Until next time, Pile 3, stay human.